You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. It's 7:25, time for a look at the newspapers.
Let's look at the front pages then. Here's the Mail on Sunday this morning. The House of Fools is their headline, referring to the decision made in the Commons yesterday to approve the so-called Letwin Amendment, which ultimately means a further delay to Brexit.
Let's take a look at the Telegraph next. It reports on Boris Johnson's decision not to sign that letter that he sent to EU leaders last night, asking for a further delay to when we leave the EU. It also refers to another letter that the Prime Minister has sent to Donald Tusk. He's the guy who chairs the meetings in Brussels of the European leaders, in which Mr Johnson says that a further delay would be deeply corrosive.
Here's the Observer's take. They've got a picture of all those people marching in London yesterday, and they believe that the Prime Minister could face fresh court action after rejecting a delay to Brexit.
And where shall we head next? Let's head to the Sunday Mirror, which refers to Saturday's Commons drama with one word. There you see it, humiliated, saying there are new doubts over whether the Prime Minister can get his deal approved.
Well, we've got Tom Harwood here, reporter with the Westminster News and Gossip website, Guido Fawkes, who's obviously been digesting all the political stuff in the papers. There's so much of it today as well. I guess it's a feast, a Sunday feast for you, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's an entire host of things, not just in this country, but all around the world to read about today. Let's
dive into the Sunday Telegraph, which I think you've picked here. So now, I've only got half the headline here on this little page, because it's one of those double-page spreads that Sunday newspaper journalists absolutely love, or love to read, perhaps don't love to write when they've got to do it in no time at all. And in essence, what they're doing here with this little colour chart is trying to work out how on earth the Prime Minister gets this deal over the line at some stage.
That's right. It looks like the Prime Minister has a majority for his deal. In fact, that's one of the reasons why so many people in Parliament didn't want it voted on yesterday. This is why Oliver Letwin put down his amendment. This is why the Labour Party backed that amendment, and why the deal was actually not voted on yesterday, because it looks like the Prime Minister has just about those numbers to get the deal over the line. So if I was a betting person, what I'd say is that the deal is going to pass in the first half of next week.
Of course, they would say, wouldn't they, some of those who were backing the Letwin Amendment yesterday, including Sir Oliver Letwin, who says he'll vote for the deal, that their fear wasn't so much the deal, but not getting it through in time by a week on Thursday, and therefore no deal potentially happening by accident. And for those who think no deal's not a good idea, they wanted to stop that.
Well, that was their public line, but looking at the wording of the amendment, that was a little bit cheeky, because the amendment could have said, we approve the deal, and we endorse the deal, but we don't want no deal. But instead, it withheld the approval of the deal and just tried to humiliate the Prime Minister, just tried to get that extension come what may. So it was a little bit duplicitous from a lot of people who were proposing that amendment and getting it forward.
And clearly some who backed that amendment hate the whole idea of Brexit.
Exactly.
It's definitely the case for some of them.
You refer to kind of turbulent politics elsewhere in the world. We've been talking about Hong Kong this morning, Santiago in Chile as well, but also problems in Catalan, which have been going on for many months now.
Yeah, 500,000 people were out on the streets of Catalonia last night. Big fires, big riots, buildings set alight, vehicles set ablaze, all over the fact that the separatist politicians who put forward that illegal referendum last year to try and gauge the public's view on whether Catalonia should be an independent state, they've received incredibly draconian prison sentences, ranging from 9 to 13 years for the people behind that unofficial referendum. And it just goes to show how angry people can become and how unsettling things can get if democracy is denied, if people are denied their say. And I think the Spanish government has handled this incredibly poorly. And I just hope that we can learn the lessons from this and try and settle things more democratically.
Let's have a look at a little lighter story. In fact, literally a lighter story that you picked from the Sun. Generation Z, millennials are too lazy to change a light bulb. I guess you are a millennial, so how are you? Plenty of lights in this studio. We might need to call on you between now and 9 o'clock. So this is this suggestion. I don't know, is this a bit of a stereotype? Or maybe it's true. This idea that younger people are too lazy to climb up the ladder, take the bulb out.
What, so they just live in the dark? Is that what you were saying?
Well, I think, this is a survey of 21,000 millennials and Generation Z people. So that sort of new generation coming up who...
A Generation Z behind millennials age.
That's exactly
younger.
right. It's basically, I think 1995 is the cut-off. although it's contested, obviously, some people say. But this is a new generation who don't tend to do household tasks, change light bulbs, paint rooms, all this sort of stuff. I have a feeling it's something to do with the housing crisis. If you're renting a flat, you're more likely to get your landlord to come over and fix the radiator than do it yourself. So I think that's a lot of stuff that's behind this and actually could be solved if we had sort of more houses being built in this country.
It's interesting, isn't it, that everything comes back to politics. It certainly does when I'm sitting on this sofa, and when you're with us as well. That sense of, how much more we'd be talking about housing if it wasn't for a lot of the other stuff that we're talking about.
We just got Brexit done.
We'll talk to you later on.
Is your opinion.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, Tom.